Every esport boasts those filthy, frustrating forces of nature known as mains. It doesn't matter if you're a league scrub, are still playing Overwatch for some reason, or can't help but subject yourself to that sadomasochistic nightmare that is Dota. You've definitely encountered some dedicated, die-hard devotees who've literally spammed their way to success.
He puts himself.
That's
That's it. And it's looking like he looks so focused on the wobble right now.
Singularly minded masters, who, at the risk of being hamstrung, say counters be damned, set out to learn everything there is to know about the character they're so hellbent on hardlining, and make it their sole purpose to clap anyone and anything that stands in their way.
Winning games with Nature's Prophet is probably the most enjoyable thing. I mean, it's become kind of a meme. People spam the Twitch chat about it, and slowly getting split pushed, and you can't do anything about it. You're just pushing out waves and waiting for your doom. So I don't think my enemies like me so much for it, but you know, who cares?
Oh, Bone 7, he was farming up the Ancients, and now Admiral Bulldog has found him. Backtracks galore, but it's still Bone 7 gonna fall inside that side the fight.
Because at the end of the day, that's what makes for a true main. Someone who can use one set of skills to overcome every obstacle that's shoved in their path. Someone whose conversance with a certain character is so OP that they can find a solution to any problem.
Firing the second take nearly going to be there. Jonas, oh man, this takes him down right up in the face of a Bastion. Finds a triple kill as Gino and Arc also fall. Let's go ahead and make it 4. You got more for me, Jonas. Let's go ahead and say it. Sansom's going to be dumping the bomb, trying to make it back in, but there it is. Gets him in the face, and NYXL just take the point on the back of Jonas.
But what if I told you that in the ever-growing esport that is Valorant, the most shining example of that wasn't a seasoned professional or some certifiably cracked up-and-comer? What if I told you that the game's most sought-after savant was actually an opera singer? Meet Jonas, Average Jonas Navarsete, the Norwegian songbird who, after years of authoring musical parodies around his favorite esports, finally got his big break. Not as a musician, mind you, but as a theory crafter who's quickly solidifying himself as his game's nuttiest Sova specialist.
All right, it's still in there?
It's in there, so...
Wait. I have a lineup for it.
Do it.
It's coming.
Wait, is that a thing?
Please.
Dude, Jonas, what? Jonas!
So, how did Jonas go from belting out arias to slinging sonar arrows? What inspired him to start hunting down such insane lineups to begin with? And in what sense is he becoming a sort of celebrity in the Valorant community at large?
Amazing darts, how sweet they sound.
Okay, so as with a lot of Valorant's early adopters, Jonas hails from a background of, surprise, surprise, Counter-Strike. But that's not all he hails from, and it isn't at all how his YouTube channel got its start. A vocalist by trade, Jonas started uploading creative a cappella renditions of mainstream pop music way back in 2013. From there, he began delving into movie soundtracks, musicals, Christmas carols, video game themes, and of course, his specialty, opera.
I started singing in a choir, and when I was singing in a choir, I always had a lot of fun doing all the other voices too. So like when I heard the soprano sing, I was like, wait, maybe I should try the soprano too. And then I tried the tenor, and then I was like, and when I was like walking home from choir practice, I would like have all the different voices. Basically, I had voices in my head. I don't know if that's a good thing, but so then I was like, what if I just record all of this? How will that sound?
The thing is, Jonas was also something of an e-gamer. A lifelong lover of shooters, Jonas began authoring and uploading musical parodies centered around titles such as GTA 5, Overwatch, and, like any self-respecting Scandinavian, CSGO.
And then, of course, Counter-Strike came into the picture as the more like mechanical, challenging PvP aspect, which I think more makes sense in terms of like the competitive aspect. I think for most people that play World of Warcraft, they don't play it to compete that much against others, but maybe compete against yourself in the same way. Like,
I can't actually play you any of them because of copyright, but suffice it to say, Jonas's catalog boasts such classics as Let It Blow, Eco Maybe, and Hello from the Trading Site. Unfortunately, churning out a cappella content by yourself requires a ton of work. And in the end, it just wasn't worthwhile for Jonas to give his full attention to his parodic passion projects. Now, part of the reason for this was his talent in the server. You see, Jonas wasn't just an appreciator of FPS, but kind of an aficionado. Someone who had the makings of an actual competitor. He even spent most of 2016 trying to crack it as a professional Overwatch player, serving as the main tank for a slew of lesser-known Norwegian stacks.
And for Epiphany Bolt, we have a sort of new lineup. This is not the whole team that qualified, since they have gotten some roster changes, but we will see Globe, Tricky, Average Jonas as their team leader, Riku, Lysin, and Dave playing.
Now a little bit back and forth, Misfits playing very aggressively now as Hidan falls and Newik, and a huge Earth Shatter is gonna stop the team in their tracks, and Misfits are now being forced back. 5 members going down, and Epiphany Bolt looking very strong.
Alas, Jonas's dream of becoming a full-time Reinhardt spammer simply wasn't meant to be.
I also quickly realized that mechanically I would not be able to keep up with the best in the world. And I also think it was due to like a conflict of interest with what, because I was also doing music at the time and studies. So there was like a lot of things to balance out and not a lot of spare time.
Despite taking his competitive career out to pasture after only 3 months, he stuck around the scene for years to come, doing everything he could to support Norwegian Overwatch.
Hey guys, my name is Jonas and I'm the community manager of Team Norway Overwatch. We're going to Los Angeles to play in the World Cup.
Needless to say, said involvement wouldn't last. See, this was back when franchising was being hailed as the future of esports, and Overwatch the savior of competitive gaming. Unfortunately, Blizzard did what they always do. Get too involved, ruin everything, and watch as their esport collapses in on itself like a dying star. For nearly 2 years, Jonas was pretty much off the radar. He all but gave up on YouTube and shifted his attention back onto music, which landed him a job singing on a cruise ship.
So I basically sent my resume to Silver Sea Cruise Lines. So that's where I ended up somehow, a little mountain boy from Norway. And so there was quite a lot of things I needed to change up in my head. It was a big challenge. But I don't think I've learned more from anything else in a span of 10 months. You change so much as a performer and a person, not just from the actual shows, but from traveling the world, meeting new cultures, and to live in a 12 square meter little bedroom together with another person with no window. Because regardless of how luxurious the cruise ship is and the suites for the guests are, believe you me, the crew do not have the same benefits.
And then, in the spring of 2020, right as everything seemed to be going on track for Jonas, COVID happened. Jonas lost his job in the craziest way imaginable, was left temporarily stranded in Brazil, thousands of miles away from home. But after making it back to Norway, Jonas found himself jobless and without so much as a prospect in either esports or music. He was lost. And then, out of nowhere, Jonas caught a break. Riot Games released their long-awaited hero shooter, one that sought to fuse the shooting mechanics of Counter-Strike with the ability mayhem of Overwatch. And for Jonas, Valorant wasn't just an opportunity to create new content. It was a dream come true.
Sun in the air, email appeared, my schedule was cleared, cause I knew it was time to be a chat name. I played 1,000 hours of Genji and still I am bronze, cause I'm a chat name.
Sure, Valorant offered Jonas a new stage to pursue his penchant for parody, but on top of that, it allowed him to pursue a new kind of content creation. See, having really gone the distance with Overwatch, Jonas was of a different breed than most of the purebred Counter-Strike converts who'd flooded Valorant's servers early on. He was a sucker for spells, especially those that rewarded resourcefulness and creativity, which in Valorant, honestly, isn't actually that many. Okay, now already, I know what you're gonna say. Valorant's hero abilities make it 10 times more varied and sophisticated than CSGO. And in a sense, you'd be correct. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a shitload more accessible. Now, to be clear, this isn't a bad thing. At all. One of the truly great things about Riot's brand spanking new shooter is that it found a way to streamline the often incredibly obtuse utility requirements of Counter-Strike. Like, if we're playing Valorant and I tell you smoke off spawn, there's nothing to it. You either whip out your circular mass of interdimensional mist, or you simply pull out your iPad, click it on the minimap, and whoop, brims your uncle. But if we're playing CSGO, that's a whole other story. Let's say you've looked up where to throw the smoke grenade from. Have you lined it up using your crosshair in particular? Is it a standing throw, a slow walk, a crouch walk, a running toss? Does it require a jump bind? And if so, will it work on 64-tick servers or 128-tick? And that's just smokes. In Valorant, for instance, my boy Phoenix can execute an altogether perfect pop flash just by pressing a button. To pull off something like that in CS, you'd need to spend countless hours learning how to conduct a symphony orchestra with the damn thing.
How long?
Oh my god.
Dead.
Calm down.
Anyway, with Valorant's content creation landscape pretty much being a blank canvas, and with most people still just learning the ropes, Jonas saw an opportunity to put his creative talents to work. And he saw it with one agent in particular.
Wherever they run, I will find them.
Now, for those who are unaware, Sova's kit revolves around a set of sonar and shock arrows that can be bounced around the game world with near infinite possibilities. And because of that, he boasts a skill floor that's basically higher than most other agents' ceilings. And being that Jonas was a true strategist, the kind who lived not only to compete, but to theorycraft, his interest in Sova's kit became a calling of sorts, an obsession that could never be quelled.
And I saw Sova and I was like, okay, there's a lot of potential in this agent. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And I also could see that there's so much stuff that no one's done yet with Sova. But at the same time, it kind of frightened me because I know how I work as like approaching any sort of knowledge, that if I choose Sova, I have to choose him. Like, I can't just like casually play Sova now and then and that's gonna be fine.
Within no time, he was releasing his very own lineup videos, assembling a modest but fast-growing Twitch community, and cementing himself as this sort of mad scientist who was gleefully ripping servers apart with his 2 billion IQ arrows.
Does this hit them?
What's more, Jonas was this joyful, jubilant sweetheart who was banging out while he was fragging out.
Cause I'm a Sova main. Check the kill feed and you know my name. I upload all my clips to gain Reddit fame. Yeah!
I think one of the reasons why people enjoy my content is that I never rage and I'm never toxic, so that like I'm trying to just be as relaxed as possible.
If I'm getting off now, I'm quitting Valorant.
Okay. One of the big advantages of being a quote-unquote boomer, like you have traveled a lot, seen a lot, met a lot of people, learned a lot of different social interactions, and you can kind of use all this knowledge when you're teaching other people how to do a certain thing.
Whether he was executing one of his signature double shock lineups.
It's gonna look like this.
Shock dart. Shock dart.
This one is super deadly because it's really hard to see it coming, and it lands really tight right there in the space where he peaks.
Or competing in actual tournaments.
better of the omens thus far. Here comes Jonas in with 2 kills, and Myth's gonna shut him down sure enough, but Myth now needs much more, and instead he hits the floor. It's the Nordics on the board.
Jonas's Sova-centric slapfests were quite literally taking Valorant by storm. And it wasn't long before tens of thousands of like-minded followers joined him on his lineup Discord. Even pro players started taking note of his nutty-ass arrows.
I think the reason why a lot of people ended up using my guides and my lineups, even in pro play now, I see like a lot of my lineups being used in pro tournaments, which I think is super cool because that shows that regardless of the skill level, this is still very relevant, because no matter how good or bad you are at aiming, there's always a higher skill ceiling that's in ability usage.
And as Jonas's strategies skyrocketed in popularity, so too did his stream.
Watch this tactic.
Standing ahead.
I am the hunter!
What? Where?
Side B.
He was even selected to be a color caster for Valorant's first major tournament, First Strike, where he was invited to inject a little bit of energy into more than just the play-by-play.
Amazing darts, how sweet they sound when raining down from the sky. You planted staring at the ground, and for that you deserve to die.
And as if 2020 hadn't been life-changing enough for Jonas, in 2021 he was brought in as a full-time content creator for Team Liquid.
A side stacked, rush B.
This feels like a home where I can now do all these things, because there's a production team here, there's a manager here. So now we're looking at all these kind of music producers around Europe where we can do projects together. And the irony is that by not choosing to go full-time musician like I used to, I'll now probably get more exciting music gigs than I would ever get from focusing on music in the first place, which is super ironic.
From choir boy to opera singer to YouTuber to professional Overwatch player to Valorant's resident Sova specialist, Jonas boasts one of the craziest stories of any content creator in the whole of esports. And it's not lost on him.
You know, now I'm basically, I'm living the dream. Like, there's not much else to say. Like, of course, people constantly ask me, would you go back to your old job if you could? I'm like, no, absolutely not. It's just that this is something that it's impossible to imagine yourself doing unless you're suddenly there.
As you can see, Jonas's story is anything but run-of-the-mill. He had to become brilliant at a bunch of things and overcome a ton of adversity before he finally found his true calling. The perfect gig that somehow combined all of the absurdly disparate things he'd ever been good at.
So I think, first of all, I think that what I'm doing now is like a full circle of everything I've been doing for like the past 10, 15 years, because it's been gaming, it's been competing, it's been singing.
If there's one thing to be learned from our boy's astronomical rise to the top, it's this. Life, like Valorant, isn't entirely susceptible to lineups. Try as you might to plan things out to a T, something crazy, chaotic, and altogether unpredictable can and will happen. That's what makes tactical shooters so interesting. It's also what makes life so interesting. But it's Jonas's ability to be both a meticulous, painstakingly precise planner and someone who's proven that he can roll with the punches that's made him so damn successful.
Watch this, guys.
Spike planted.
Last round.
That match on Saturday or on Sunday between Vitality and Navi hit 660,000 concurrent viewers, the most of any online match for CS in history. Like, but it's a dead game. But it's a dead game. You're just pissed because CSGO's a dead game, bro. You just like all right, fam. Like, sure.